if you have FI, you have a massive liability, and that's your personal values. The fact that you gotta be a good person, don't ya? My advice to you is let that shit go. Join the dark side. That's right. Be a little bit more TI. Look, if you have FI, you're probably going to have some sense, especially if you dig deep on what's important to you, what do you want, what do you like, who do you like, and you feel justified on some way to go for that. At the same time, you also have an eye on how to work well with other people and making sure you're not, look, I don't know what the hell TE is. I obviously don't have it, but I'll tell you what it's not. It is not fuck everyone else. What's in it for me? And the thing you got to ask yourself is if you have FI or TE is what would a psychopath do in this situation? And look, I'm not saying TIs are psychopaths. I'm not. But that's just a mental cue for you to start thinking in that direction. Because from a TE perspective, a TI person is going to look a little bit cold and calculating and a little bit like a psychopath. Is that what's actually going on? No, because if you don't have FE, you're not really seeing that that person who is cold and calculating is actually beholden to not piss anyone off or not be too selfish in the feeling realm. That's a whole separate story. But let's just focus on you. Ask yourself, what would a psychopath do? And I'm not saying you should act like that. I'm just saying ask the question so you can pull out what is it that you really want out of the situation, whether that's a job or it's a relationship or it's any other circumstance. Look, the reality is this is called shadow TI, right? It's a function that you don't have. And this is a super interesting topic about shadow functions. We'll talk about it another day. But the reality is you're already acting like that. There's so many FI people, they're not really seeing that they do have a cold and calculating side, but it's so unconscious because all that you can look to when understanding your own motives is, do I personally like this? And does this work for other people? Yeah, but your mind and your psyche is still going to be looking out for you. And so it's better to make those things conscious.
Shared interests is one of the weakest compatibility points in relationships because it doesn't actually represent the transactional element in relationships. And because we have demonized this to such an extreme degree, we don't get into that element consciously at all.
Or you'll see things like, I really loved him, but we just grew apart. Really? So you really loved him, he lost his job, and then you grew apart. Anyway, the point is, we all have different sides to us. You have a very narcissistic, psychopathic side to you, however you define that. And if you reject it, you're still going to act on it. You're just not going to be aware of it. Anyway, back to the practical side. Here are the questions you should ask yourself. Number one, what's in it for me? How do I walk out of this situation leaving with something no matter what? That means if you're in a relationship, don't go down with the ship. Like if it works out, great. And if it doesn't work out, I'm still going to be a little bit better off because I'm still investing my time. I'm investing my time and my emotions, my money. I need to walk away with something. Don't get completely screwed of, oops, sorry, the relationship didn't work out. I lost all of my investment.
Do you love her?
Yes.
Are you willing to do whatever it takes to stay with her?
No.
Or you're working at a job. How do you make sure that no matter what, you don't get screwed? What leverage do you have over the other person? Don't deliver the work and leave it on their whim of like, the right thing to do is that I do the work and then you pay me. It's like, no, if you don't pay me, I will fuck you. I know that's callous, and I'm not saying you should do that, but just have it in the back of your mind. Don't walk into situations where you're relying on someone's goodwill. A lot of the FE people can also benefit from this advice. Ask, if I was on the other side, how would I exploit me? Look, I know this sounds super callous, but the point is, if you don't take care of yourself, your T self, it's nobody else's responsibility. And like you ultimately get screwed. And so I'm not saying you should avoid emotional connections or you should never trust anybody. I'm saying don't leave to trust what you can just right there put in the contract. Don't put yourself in a circumstance that leaves you ripe for being exploited. Look, another classic example of that. And the funny thing is that the TI-FE people really can see this. And for some reason, the FITE, they often miss this. So I knew someone who met someone through a friend, and the guy lived out of state, like pretty close. It's like an hour flight away. They got married. She moved there. She left her job that was over here. She left all her friends that were over here. And she's thinking, look, oh, his family's really nice. And oh, his friends are really nice. But those are his friends. That is his family. You are letting go of your economic freedom. You are now all of the FE social pressure is going to be aligned with him. It's not you against him, but you just have to know you're putting yourself in an environment where he and his whole team, his family, needs to be looking out for you or making sure that you are taken care of because you are now in a vulnerable spot. And look, probably 70% of the time, that goes fine, right? You have someone over there who really takes a liking to you and they'll make sure that you're taken care of, or your husband's really checking in, making sure that you feel comfortable and all your needs are met. But sometimes when it doesn't work out, you're going to get super duper screwed and he's not going to get that screwed. And so that's another good example, a good like litmus test of when you're getting in a situation is when this goes bad, how screwed am I going to be and how screwed are the other parties going to be, right? How do the individual T circumstances for the people, how bad are they? And if you're in a situation where you super get screwed and everybody's going to be like, meh, they're going to be a lot more reckless. Not because they're bad people and not because of any other reason. That's just circumstance. And you're going to end up getting pushed around. And look, I know all of this is like super cynical. And you'd think that the savior FE, like bringing pies, giving flower types would take issue with this kind of talk. But the reality is they're like, yeah, duh, obviously. Sure, maybe we don't talk about it because it's rude or it's kind of like cynical, it sounds bad. We don't talk about it. But of course, everybody considers this is obvious. Yes, it's obvious to everybody except for like the poor FIs or like the TE people that are like, oh, I'm just here to work and be a good person. But look, you got me. I'm looking out for you. And look, I'm not trying to take your FI sincere love out of the way. You know, the FI bright eyes. I'm just saying occasionally, look at the person that you love and you can keep the smile, but just bring in a little bit of TI dead eyes and look at them and assess them. Is this person gonna fuck me? And if they do, how do I come out alive? I'll catch you guys next time.
Back to cheating, bro. This year, that's my goal. That's my goal for 2019.
16 years.
How long you been faithful?